It's good to be with everybody today, and really just kind of want to bring y'all up to date a little bit on the water policy of the state of Georgia. I see a lot of articles written all around the state and never see anything that's very comprehensive about the water policy in the state being a statewide issue. And that is kind of concerning to me from a standpoint of there's so many facets to our water policy in the state, and most of the articles are written about the Atlanta region, regardless of where the article is coming from. And so I just kind of wanted to talk to you briefly today. And before I get started on that, I want to talk a little bit about a perfect storm that's out there. That those things kind of concern me sometimes when I'm laying down and like last night and couldn't sleep. When you look at the water infrastructure of the state of Georgia, and Governor Deal was very good to put about $300 million over the next 4 years in the state budget for water infrastructure work in the state. But at the end of the day, we don't really know from the Corps' perspective what we're going to get back out of the Corps for a plan with Lake Lanier. So when I have those things kind of looming out there in front of us, it concerns me because that $300 million may be a drop in the bucket to the water infrastructure work we potentially could have out in front of us. I could easily see that going to $1 billion+ easy. Just depends on what we get as a plan when it comes back from the Corps dealing with just Lake Lanier. So that concerns me. The deepening of the harbor down in Savannah, extremely important economic development tool for the state. There are distribution centers all over the state that are fed out of that port. And if we don't get that project done, and I don't know if any of y'all have caught lately, there's potentially the federal government's a little short of cash. And if you've noticed that lately, we don't know where that's going to come and how that's going to work out. So normally a project like that, navigable water like that, the federal government really would fund that, but we don't know where that's going to end up at the end of the day. High energy prices that continue to hammer us really work on the consumer and the consumer's pocketbook. And so that concerns me from a budget standpoint, is the revenues coming into the state over time as long as that stays up. So that's kind of a little perfect storm that lays out in front of us that we don't always know the answer to all the issues there. So those are the things that we worry about and think about, and a lot of that's dealing with water planning too. The statewide water plan that we put together over the last few years, and really think all the planning districts have turned in their draft document for each water planning district. We have 11 of them, and that's including the metropolitan district, which was the original district. That process has been going good. I think those are some of the things that have helped us as far as negotiations and as far as litigation goes. I think because we've been doing the things that we should do, that has continued to help us out in the state as far as how the courts look at the state of Georgia and their water planning process, and I think that's been very important by having the entire state, bringing the entire state into the process, where we just had the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District originally. By bringing the whole entire rest of the state together in the planning process has been very important. Senate Bill 370 that we passed, not this last session, but the year before, it was very important. The Water Stewardship Act, big conservation bill, has a lot of conservation measures in there. Also will have a lot of cost involved with it for local communities going into the future. Senate Bill 122, Public-Private Partnership Bill, was basically just another tool for local governments if they so desire as a financing tool to finance some of their projects out there. I think those bills have been very positive in the way the courts look at us too, by the state planning and then by the bills that were passed in dealing with water. This last summer, not this summer, but last summer and last fall, right when we got the end of the session, I called Alan Barnes and told him to come by and visit with me, and we were going to spend our summer and our fall going around the state meeting with different groups on the interbasin transfer issue. And what I wanted to do there was take the rules, the language that we had in the statewide water plan on interbasin transfers and put that into DNR rules and regs. And I think that would, I think from doing that, we spent all summer and fall and then got those adopted into rules and regs in January. And I think that raises the bar on interbasin transfers. Our policy work needs to be two things: protecting the environment and also protecting the business environment so our economy can continue to grow. And I think by putting that language into rules and regs, that does help us out as a state and gives us higher bar to have interbasin transfers, and yet protects the environment and protects the business climate. And I think that was I appreciate DNR's board for being willing to accept those into their rules and regs. If you look at the state, and basically, I mean, I see the articles that are written, and if I'm in Savannah, I see things down there written, and wherever I'm at. But if you look at the state from a water perspective, it's not just Atlanta's problem. We've got issues all around the state. Yes, the northern part of the state has the issues with Lake Lanier and drought, but then all of a sudden flip forward a few years and we've got a terrible drought going on in the southwest Georgia region of the state. Terrible drought going on down there, and whether you're building high rises and apartments and fast growth up here, or whether you're trying to grow crops in southwest Georgia, we have the same problem going on, just a different economy, different type economy. So we do have issues going on down there. And then over here on the coast of Georgia, we have salt water intruding in the aquifers because the coastal Georgia over the last 30 years has grown so fast that as we draw that water out, we're getting salt water intruding into the aquifers there. So every part of the state may have a different issue. Even in middle Georgia, I get phone calls every now and then because we've had this drought going on, and we've got aquifers. We've got huge aquifers, but you'll hear from people that their household well went dry, and they've got to dig those wells, drop them deeper. So everything has a limit to it. So the conservation measures that we passed over the years, as they're implemented, will have a positive impact over the entire state. So the entire state has issues, and we're working on those, and we can solve these issues. We really can. Director Barnes has been great to work with from a standpoint of the water issues. He probably gets tired of seeing my name come up on his phone, I imagine, but we work constantly together, and I think that we've got ways that we can help solve these, whether it's we're going to have capture more water from new reservoirs in certain places, and that'll be laid out later in the year. But we're also looking to put them where they'll have the least negative impact on the environment and make the biggest positive impact to delivering water to the consumer. Potential of stream augmentation down in the southwest part of the state where the droughts are so bad, we may be able to potentially do some augmentation to the streams down there to help those flows. So as we start to get into dry times, we start augmenting those flows and helping preserve those streams and help preserve any endangered species down there. Potential for aquifer storage and recovery in some parts of the state. A lot of environmental study will have to be done there, but there's great potential in parts of the state there, and that could be another tool in the toolbox to use there. I think in the future, potentially, for coastal Georgia, you could potentially see desalination on the coast to help solve the coastal problems, not to pipe water, up I-16 or something, but to solve some of the problems on the coast. That potentially may come into play on coastal Georgia as the costs continue to drop in desalination, which they had over the last few decades. So I think from a standpoint of understanding water and the complex state that we live in, we need to think about all the different moving parts because our economy is all tied together. We may be transportation and big business up here in the metropolitan region, but we've got coastal Georgia. We've got the port system, which is an unbelievably great port that's been growing rapidly over the years. Creates a lot of commerce out across the state from all the distribution centers that we have. And then the agricultural belt down in the southern part of the state is very important. It's the single biggest industry out there. Sometimes I tell people, if you've never been to the Moultrie, to the show, I think it's in the fall, down there, the Farm Expo, I said, you just need to go see it. And you'll see the dynamics of that kind of business and the machinery that's sold and equipment and all the different things that go on with agriculture. It creates a lot of revenue for the state. And we're all in the same ball game together. And we need to make sure that we're working hard to solve all of our problems, and we can do that. We're going to get there. I have no doubt about that at all, and we're going to continue to stay focused on that. The court ruling that we got on the appeals court ruling is a great ruling, but there again, we have to wait for the Corps of Engineers to come back with a plan that they were so given that they need to come back within a year, and I think it's actually going to be a little over a year, but from all the legal positions that they have to do. But I think that when they come back, I don't know what they're going to give us. So we're going to be kind of like that mule with blinders on. We're going to keep plowing ahead. We're going to stay focused on our mission, stay focused on doing our work, and accomplish what we need to accomplish for this state in the water policy and delivering water to the consumers of the state of Georgia and, to the different parts of the state with their different issues out there. And I think that's so important. I know that I just... I was reading an article, it's been a while back, but it was a Savannah article, and they were talking about Atlanta's going to run a pipe to the Savannah River, suck it dry. Well, they can't do that. So let's just don't talk like that. We need to be working together to solve these problems, and Atlanta can't run a pipe to the Savannah River. They'd never get the permit to do that from EPD, and it's just something that's not going to happen. So that's written a lot more down on the coast about that, but that's really a non-issue and a non-event. It's not going to occur. So those are the kind of things we need to stay away from. Let's just stick to the facts and talk about the state and talk about how we're going to solve our problems. I live in the middle of the state down in Houston County in Perry, Georgia, and Houston County is a fast-growing county. Not fast-growing like the metropolitan region up here, but a fast-growing county. So it's kind of where agriculture, timber, and fast growth all come together right there in that area. So I'm able to kind of see the whole gamut that we have to deal with. And I think that will be if we stay focused on our mission, stay focused on each part of the state, and not be talking about each part of the state, but how can we help each part of the state solve their problems, stay focused on what we need to stay focused on, then I think we can move ahead, and as far as the water policy goes, we'll solve these problems, and I have no doubt about that. We work continuously with EPD, and we've got a lot of good ideas, and we're going to be laying a lot of stuff out toward the end of the year, and I really appreciate Governor Deal's perspective on a lot of stuff. I met with him when he was still a congressman, and he has a lot of working knowledge of water, and I appreciate his help that he's been giving us too. I'll move from there for just a minute to energy, and just want to make a few brief points on energy. And the thing about the nation, to me, our nation seems to be having a hard time making rational decisions, and that concerns me. I mean, it doesn't have to be a decision that I agree with, but it just needs to be out there in what you would call a rational decision. If we look at the coal, the push on coal these days for our energy plants, electrical plants, our policy seems to be in the country to get us off of coal. Well, get us off of coal, but let's go ahead and sell coal to the rest of the world to use. And so the world is as the world is. Other than these other countries will burn it dirtier than we will. And we continually updating our plants and spending money on putting scrubbers and making our electrical plants cleaner and burn cleaner. And those are the things we need to do. That's a rational thing to do. But the policy of doing away with coal, getting rid of our source of economical energy and selling it to the rest of the world to use, it to me is not a rational decision. I think it's even in Washington State. They're building, I believe it's Washington State. You can probably Google it and find out, but they're building a new export terminal for coal. Why? I mean, what we should be doing is potentially capping the use of coal where we're at. Then anything else we add for power supply, whether it be nuclear or alternatives or solar or whatever, we add that going forward. But we should be potentially capping where we're at with coal, but not exporting coal. Exporting coal for the rest of the world to use to beat us economically, to me, is not a rational decision. And if your true intent is environmental, and you're saying that this is environmentally a negative thing to use for energy, then don't export it to the rest of the world to use. But don't stop using it and yet export it all to these other countries to use to beat us economically, because we will pay a huge price for that, and we won't be competitive with the rest of the world. And we do have to compete. That's one thing. At the end of the day, our businesses have to compete. If they get to where they can't compete, then everything will be shipped overseas, and we'll be having unemployment lines longer and longer in this country. We're looking at natural gas, working with some groups around the state right now, looking at the transportation fuels of the state and how can we make a big difference there. And we're really looking real hard to maybe grow that part of the transportation fuels in the state of Georgia. Number one, we gain a cleaner burning fuel. So as far as the non-attainment zones of the state, that will help them, because EPA is going to keep ratcheting tighter those non-attainment issues, and it's going to be harder and harder. The first thing you'll hear out of probably, let's say, the agricultural business on us using natural gas is it'll make fertilizer costs go up, because a lot of natural gas is used in the production of fertilizer. But we have more natural gas today than we've ever had in this country, and I think it will have a very minimal impact on the cost of fertilizer. And I've spoken with Georgia Farm Bureau on this and kind of laid that on the table to have that discussion and give them to think about it. I think what it will do, if we shift more to natural gas, it'll help reduce the pressure on diesel fuel and diesel fuel prices. So I think the win will be is that you bring consistency to pricing better than you have today, as we begin to wean ourselves off of using diesel on all the bus systems and transportation systems. I know the UPSs and Coca-Colas and those kind of companies are using more natural gas. If we can expand that out across the state and get an infrastructure built, and I think we can do that. And I know you've probably all seen the AGL. They've got some stuff before the PSC now on that, and I think we keep driving that and building that out across the state. We can help diversify our transportation fuel source and make a very positive impact on the state. Not on just our state, other states will probably do the same. And I think we can. But when you talk about transportation fuels, you really got to know the rest of the story. And there's a rest of the story, and I don't have it all for you today, but we will talk about that before the end of the year probably. But who controls the flow of transportation fuels in the state of Georgia? Really the East Coast, and I'll start with the East Coast right now, but the country as a whole, but obviously Georgia and the East Coast. Most people say, oh, it's big oil. They control everything. They own everything. Let's beat them up. That's the easy thing to say. But that's not really the facts. Investment banks own a large amount of the terminals in the state of Georgia, and I'll have that percent in probably another day. We're still working on bringing this together, but They own a lot of the terminals, the storage capacity. They own the storage capacity, the bulk of the storage capacity. So there's investment banks that are trading futures every day and also owning storage capacity, terminals, and actually financing the use. I mean, some of the production facilities, and actually owning 100% of the fuel that's coming out of those facilities. And so we need to look at all the facts and understand all the facts, and we will lay that out for you between now and the end of the year. We're doing all our homework on that right now, and but those are things that we have to know to really address energy in the state and in the country. And so we're gonna be working on that. And I personally don't believe we've seen high energy costs yet. If you take diesel fuel, China used to be an exporter of diesel fuel. They are now a big importer of diesel fuel. When the global economy turns around, the countries that are growing at speeds like China and other countries, they'll be consuming that flow of fuel, and we will be having to compete to get that, and the prices will go up. So I think it's imperative that we do everything we can as a state, and we can make a big difference. And it's imperative that we do it, and we know our facts, and we lay it out for the people in this state, and we plan on doing that as we go through the end of this year. And hopefully by the first of the year, we'll have some real good plans on infrastructure and making a positive difference and changing our fuel mix, because we're going to need it. We're going to need it as a state to stay competitive, to draw people here. And if we do a good job, it will draw businesses to Georgia, and that means people will be employed, and we like that because they have a job and they can buy stuff and pay taxes and give us revenue. So I think we can make a positive difference on it, but from the standpoint of the state, the country, and competing with the rest of the world, which we have to do, these are things that we will move forward with. So with that, just wanted to have a broad overview on just kind of water and look at the state and understand the impacts all around the state, not just the metropolitan area, and then from a fuel standpoint, kind of where we're headed. And my thought process is on that, and from an energy standpoint on the national level of what's being done, I'm afraid that if we go down the road we're going right now, our energy prices are going to really get high, from electrical energy plus also transportation fuels. And that means that we're going to have to compete, and if we don't do what we need to do to help solve our own problems, we won't be able to compete. And with that, I'll be glad to answer our question.
Meeting the goal of the legislation, are they going to mesh together, or is it?
I think they are. I think if you look at them, and I haven't read them all yet, I haven't had a whole lot of free time, and they are stacked up on my desk, and they will be read. But I think the regional plans are doing what they should do. The regional groups that are meeting, they're laying out and looking at how they want to handle their water resource, what their environmental issues are, and we got to keep refining them. This is the first draft plan of their document, and I think it's imperative that we keep these regional councils going. I think it's having a very strong positive impact to the state, and we've just got to hang with them and help them and go through this first draft and work with EBT, and any issues that they see out there that maybe we need to refine, we'll help them do that.
Do you have a sense that they'll all mesh together, or are they all?
Well, you say all mesh. They'll mesh to a standpoint, but everything's different. I mean, all the regions are different. Their water issues are different. So when you say mesh, they'll mesh to a standpoint, to a certain point, but you're not going to have the same issues down here that you've got up in Middle Georgia, or Middle Georgia's not going to have the same issues as the northern tier of the state. So they'll mesh as far as they're supposed to mesh, but each region has different issues to deal with. Yes, ma'am. That's a technical question, and that's one of the things that keeps me up at night, because it's expensive, project, but I feel like we're and I can't remember the timelines on it, but I feel like we're in good shape from the environmental standpoint. I think we're in good shape. I think basically the real issue is going to actually come down to being how's it going to be funded, and I don't think we have a choice as a state. I think it's got to be funded one way or another because of the economic tool that port is would be devastating if we had to, if we couldn't take these new bigger ships that are coming in. So I think we'll probably I think we'll see that through. I think that project's just whether the federal government's going to be able to help us or not.
So if the feds can't, the state has to fund the money somehow.
My personal opinion is yes, without a doubt. Yes, ma'am. Well, my thoughts are this, and right now we don't really have we don't have a very coherent energy policy in the country, and that's not beating anybody up because I don't know that we've ever had a very coherent energy policy in this country, and I think that's what we're missing. I think we need to. I think the new technologies on coal are far superior than they used to be, and I would hope that we could move forward. But what I was telling you earlier was that I think a really bad policy is that we have to quit using it and we close down plants. We've got, I think American Electric Power has 5 plants they're going to have to close down. There's no way that they could, in that time period, get those updated and changed. And so you're gonna close down a lot of energy production before you even have time to replace that energy production, which is going to mean extremely high prices for businesses and consumers. The homeowner is going to get hammered on that. So I think our policy needs to be how do we lay out a transition, and how do you rationalize not using coal but selling it to the rest of the world to use? When we're probably one of the cleanest burning coal countries in the world. China and places like that, they're going to worry about it later. And they had to shut down plants just to have the Olympics so everybody could breathe. We don't have that issue here. I'm not saying we don't have issues, but we don't have the kind of issues that the rest of the world has. And I think that this country needs to stay focused on the technology of continuing to be cleaner with the burning of coal and move from there. But to get off of coal, not have time to even replace your production of energy is devastating to the country. And it's just not rational. And then you're going to sell it to the rest of the world to use to beat you up economically with. And I'm not real smart, but I'm not that slow.
Energy infrastructure that needs to be put.
Well, the high energy cost, and if those continue to go up, it's going to drain the consumer of spendable dollars.
Right.
I have that will, and I would hope that as a group they have that will, because I believe that if you look at where we are today, I took my daughters to Kennesaw State Friday, okay, to fishing to go to college. So we were touring colleges. So we went to Chick-fil-A down the street after we got through and had lunch. And we came out of Chick-fil-A, and it's in rush hour. Those traffic was so backed up through those red lights. I mean, it is horrendous. So we've got we have a tough transportation issue, and we've got to fund it with transportation.
You just had
You're talking about the changing of the dates,
right,
and
just a small portion.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well, and how does that really going to impact the passing or failure of that tax? I don't really know. I'll tell you the impact that makes locally is that my county and Houston County spends 80% of their splosh on transportation, and so you're looking at potentially having both. You're looking at potentially having both those splashes at the same time, and that concerns me they may both fail. And so I think I was going to stick with the governor on that and move that out to the general election. But everybody has their own opinion. But I think we need to stay focused on solving that problem. That's a huge problem that every 12 months that goes by digs you so much deeper in the hole that you really have a harder time digging out. So I think that we need to get out there and really push the splash tax and help get it passed. I really do. Did that answer you? Well, what that does, and when you just focus, and I'm just telling you, when people focus all the articles on that, then it tells the rest of the state that that's the problem. When in reality, the problem's bigger than that. I mean, we've got the Southwest Georgia region, like I was saying, that's going through the same kind of drought that the northern state part of the state went through a few years ago. And then we got the problems on the coastal part of Georgia. So we have all these issues out there, but the only thing is written is that Atlanta's got a water problem. Well, is Gwinnett County really Atlanta? I mean, but to the article written that's sent out there across the state, it's just saying Atlanta's got a water problem. I mean, as a citizen down in the middle of the state, I can tell you that's all we see. And to me, knowing the facts, that's not the right way we need to be doing. We need to talk about all the issues and write about the all the issues with water, because we're going to solve them. I mean, as long as I'm here, which I don't know how long that's going to be, but I'm growing weary some days. But we're going to stay focused on that. And Alan Barnes and myself are just committed to stay focused on our mission of solving these problems. And if we can get people to understand that we don't need to be picking on one part of the state versus the other, because we all have our different issue in the water policy world. And we got them everywhere. I'm in the area of the state that you don't have that big a water problem, okay? That's what you consider not having that big a problem, because we have huge aquifers that we pull from. But I'm telling you that during this drought, that there are houses that have to have wells dug deeper because of the drought. So that tells me that there are limitations to everything, whether it's the big aquifers or not. Yeah, they can drill them deeper and hit more water, but it tells me that the things that we've done by the Conservation Bill, Senate Bill 370, as we engage those over time, that'll have a positive impact even on an area that does not have as bad a problem. But you keep growing. Atlanta region, this whole North Georgia region didn't have a water problem decades ago either. But you keep growing, and then you know you're going to get into a bigger problem when you get in drought times, regardless of where you live. I don't know about how many numbers. The numbers aren't that big, but what it sends to you is a simple signal up front saying that we have to be wise with our use of water regardless of where we are in the state. Even though we have an abundant source, the more you grow, the more you'll pull on it. And so I think that's why all the things that we've done from the water planning standpoint, we're having to plan in middle Georgia just like they are in the northern part of the state or the southwest part of the state. So by doing that planning, that should help alleviate having that problem years down the road by getting ahead of the curve. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.